Oh, what a mess.
One more take. Okay. This is Neil Schneider from Meant to Be Seen. Welcome back to my messy basement. I just want to wish everyone a really happy new year for 2021. Let's make it a good one. I figured the best way to end the year off is to do one more product review. And today what I'm going to do is I'm going to review the Sound Blaster X3. It's called an external DAC, digital analog converter. And I know it's kind of a long name there, right? Why don't we just call it the Sound Blaster X3? Really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. I'm going to explain why right after this. Welcome back to my messy basement. So let's talk a little bit about the Sound Blaster X3. So let me show you a little bit of the hardware. So first off, something that sets this apart from the other sound cards I've tested here in my basement, this is an external sound card. You know, it's not even a card, it's more of a sound device, or a DAC, digital analog converter, and it's connected through USB. So you don't have to plug this inside your computer, you just connect it with a USB cable and you're good to go. It's got all the connections built directly on it. So it's got a headphones jack, microphone jack, an optical Toslink connector. So this is if you have a surround sound system, not analog speakers, but like a full digital surround sound system, this is how you would hook it up. It also has, if you have analog speakers, which you know is what you're going to need if you want to connect speakers to this, it will support stereo, as well as 5.1 and 7.1 surround sound setups. Now, as far as the interface is concerned, it's all, most if not all of it is controllable through software. However, it also has a volume and selection knob, as well as some control buttons as well. So it's really, you know, a well put together device. As far as the specifications of the audio are concerned, so the audio resolution is rated at 32-bit, 192 kilohertz audio. So that's considered very high resolution. As far as the dynamic range is concerned, so the dynamic range refers to the ratio of the loudest and softest noise. It's rated at 115 decibels of dynamic range. So just as a comparable, the human ear is rated up to maybe 120 decibels or so. So this is pretty close to human capability. Now for recording, the resolution isn't quite as high. It's rated at 192 kilohertz at 24-bit recording for line in, and the same for microphone in. Now, a new feature that's introduced with the Sound Blaster X3 is something called Super XFI, which is an enhanced form of positional audio through headphones, and you know that's what's available in this. So if you have headphones, you're going to be able to do some new stuff that you couldn't do before. So as far as the MSRP is concerned, it's listed at $119.99 US, or approximately $120 American. And you know, we're going to see how much value you get for that $120 very shortly. Now, how did I go about testing this? Well, I had this connected to, well, first off, I had this connected to my gaming PC, which is based on a Gigabyte Z170 XP SLI motherboard, an EVGA NVIDIA GTX 2080 Super graphics card. That used to be the coolest thing on the block. Now they got cooler stuff. And an Intel Core i7 6700K CPU. For my laptop computer, I'm using an Asus G752VS laptop based on an NVIDIA GTX 1070 mobile GPU, and the laptop is using Realtek audio. So just that's what's built into the laptop direct. Now, this is the first time I'm testing an audio device with a games console, and the games console I'm testing with is a Sony PlayStation 4. As far as the audio quality is concerned, what did I use to test that? I used Skull Candy Grind wired / okay, there's an option there, Bluetooth. Okay, so in this case, really what I do almost 100% of the time is I use this in wired mode, because Bluetooth mode doesn't usually have enough bandwidth to deliver the full audio quality. So wired mode, Skull Candy Grind headset for audio testing, as well as Logitech Z506 5.1 surround speakers. They're not the fanciest speakers on the block by no means, but they work. So I tested the surround sound with this as well. As for what I tested, well, for games, I tested Star Wars Battlefront 2, Doom, the 2016 edition, Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim. I know these are older games, but I chose them with purpose. For movies, I went with, let's see here, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, Apollo 13, and Hacksaw Ridge. Okay. For music, I have a CD audio collection, which I'm not very proud of. But all the same, it just so happens that my audio choices are good choices for testing sound cards. For virtual reality, I tested Google's Tilt Brush, Star Wars Squadrons, and I tested it with an Acer Windows Mixed Reality headset. So, why is the X3 different from other sound devices I've tested before? Well, what really stands out with the X3 is something called Super XFI. This is a headphones-based technology. It's not something that you use with regular surround speakers. It only works through headphones. And it's designed to give a more accurate representation of positional audio, meaning being able to hear where things are coming from around you while you're wearing headphones. Now, this sound device, or the Sound Blaster X3, it also supports Games Console, which is something I haven't seen with other sound cards, as well as the Nintendo Switch. And it supports both those consoles with the Super XFI positional audio. The device is almost fully compatible with Mac OS as well, so you can connect this to a Mac PC, if you will. However, based on what I read, it will not support the Dolby Digital Live function, at least not yet. Okay, but it's listed as not working with Mac. That's the only thing that I see listed as not working with Mac. Something unique as well is it will connect to your Android smartphone or your Apple device. Okay, so your iPod, your iPad or your iPhone, and that counterpart can be used to control Sound Blaster X3, which I thought was really neat, and I'm going to share more on that a little bit later. Now, for speakers, if you have surround sound speakers and they are analog speakers, very simple, plug and play. You just put it in the connectors, you load up the software, you adjust the test so that all the speakers sound about the same volume from where you're seated, and you're good to go. I regret, unfortunately, if you have a digital surround sound system. So when I'm talking about digital surround sound systems, I mean systems that are based on, let's say, HDMI connectors, and they're connected to your HDTV, and you've got big surround sound speakers, the whole thing. Unfortunately, the only way you can get this to work with that is through the Toslink connector. And the trade-off with the Toslink connector is, even though it works, the bandwidth is not nearly the same amount as what you get through HDMI, and the audio quality will not be as high as what the the sound device could actually deliver. Now, with other sound cards, okay, including others I've tested here in my basement, what you could do, so using Sound Blaster as an example, they have a What You Hear devices. What you could do is you could take the audio from the sound card and channel it directly through HDMI to your surround sound speakers, and you get this wonderful audio experience. Unfortunately, because this is connected through a USB, and it's not USB 3, it's USB 2.0 as far as I could tell, there isn't enough bandwidth to send through all the surround channels. So, you could do perhaps 2 channels, but you cannot do over 6 channels, which is what is needed to do surround sound. So for this reason, if you have that digital surround sound system, you have no choice but to use this Toslink connector, and it really diminishes, the value of surround sound. I don't recommend it. Okay, let's take a look. See here. Now, if you are using traditional analog speakers, okay, so stereo 5.1, 7.1, they plug directly into the sound card. The jacks are like headphones jacks. I mean, that's what we're talking about. It uses the same software that other Sound Blaster cards use, the Sound Blaster command software. It's the same software. It's just that it adjusts itself according to which Sound Blaster card or device you're using and the capabilities of that device. And the option choices are nearly identical. So if you've used Sound Blaster cards before, you'll just pick up where you left off, and you'll know immediately how to use it. It's got all the classic features. So it's got the crystallizer, which takes compressed audio and uncompresses it, so it's it's a richer audio. I've had success with it. I've been very happy with it. It has a smart volume control feature, so that instead of having to turn the volume way up to hear all the fine details, I guess you could say it compresses the audio so that the low volume and the high volume are approximately the same level, so you're able to hear more with less volume being turned up. It's got a dialogue enhancement, so the dialogue is highlighted more, so it's easier to hear the words when you're gaming or watching movies and so on. It's got all the equalizer settings and more. So there's a lot of flexibility offered with the Sound Blaster X3. If you're using headphones, okay, so and if you've used headphones with other Sound Blaster cards, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Everything as it is as it is with other sound cards. You could configure it to behave up to virtually, at least, as a 7.1 positional audio device. Okay, so the idea being you could hear where things are coming from, around your body, around your head, and that is supported. Now, this is where things get a little more interesting. So what makes the Sound Blaster X3 unique compared to the other offerings is it supports something called Super XFI. And it's designed to better mimic what you would get through surround sound speakers. And the way it works is it actually maps the way your head is shaped to deliver the best result. Now, it will support generic headphones, so unfortunately mine are considered generic because Creative Labs doesn't have a profile for them, or earbuds. So it doesn't have to be the Princess Leia style. You could also use the buds that go directly in your ear. However, if you have one of the pricier headphones out there, it might be on the Creative Labs list of profiles, and they have customized profiles for the heftier brands and models. So how does it work? Well, what they do is, actually what you do is using the Sound Blaster application, you take pictures of your ears, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's one more picture taken of the front of your face as well. And these images are uploaded to Creative Labs, and in the cloud they do a calculation of of how your head is shaped, and they keep this profile up in the cloud. And every time you turn on your PC and you load up your sound card and you activate the Super XFI functionality, it downloads this profile, and you get the best experience, the experience that's personalized for you. So what were my findings? It sounds like sounds really cool, right? I mean, your head is effectively uploaded to the cloud, and they do all these fancy calculations. What's the end result of all of that? Well, in my opinion, okay, and I've heard my share of sound cards over the last year, the positional audio is definitely better than what you would get through standard sound cards. In fact, and the reason why I say it's better is and I can quantify it, is it's a lot smoother. So I'll give you an example. If I were to take a first-person shooter, and I'm wearing my headphones and I'm facing upright, if I turn around, I would hear, audio around me. Okay, it would be pretty good. But the other thing, though, is if I were to face down, so imagine I'm in this game and I look down and I do the same turn. What will happen is I will hear these breaks in the audio field. It almost sounds a little bit like a clipping of like transitioning from one space to the next space to the next space. It's very strange. Like I never, but it is, try it for yourself. I was able to do this with Doom 2016. If you have like a pit of fire or something giving a consistent noise, just stand up, look down, face down with your mouse, and turn, and you'll hear the breaks. When you're wearing headphones, you won't pick it up with speakers. It's only when you wear headphones that you'll hear these breaks in the surround sound field. Now the difference, though, is when you're using the Super XFI mode, it's completely smooth. There are no breaks. It's really seamless. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. It's very seamless as you go from point to point in surround sound with the Super XFI on the X3. Now, here's the thing, though. The Creative Labs, they position it as comparable to surround sound speakers. So I'm rather spoiled here that I do have surround sound speakers. And I did ask if, what my expectations should be. And according to Creative Labs, the positions of the speakers in the headphones and what I would experience with real surround sound speakers should be about the same. Now, so what I did was, the first step was to test for this using the Creative Labs audio test. And what it is you click on the speakers and you hear different positions of where the audio is coming from. Unfortunately, that will not work. And the reason that doesn't work is every time you click on a speaker, the software turns off the Super XFI every time a speaker test tone is announced. Fortunately, I found an alternative. So within Windows, the Windows 10, you could actually test the speakers directly from Windows itself. And when you do those speaker tests, it's it works. The Super XFI stays on, and sure enough, it correlated. So when I would click on each tone of where the audio is coming from, sure enough, while using Super XFI, I was hearing the correct tones of where they should be. Now, personally, I would prefer a wider soundstage. Okay, so I like to be over the top when possible. It would be nice if there was a way to make the speaker sound further out than closer together. I don't know if that's something that could be implemented in a future software release, but it would have enhanced things a bit further. Now, how would you compare the surround sound quality with Super XFI versus the traditional modes that are otherwise available? And this is one of the trade-offs, is when you're using the Super XFI mode, the audio is definitely thinner. Okay, it's just the positioning's better, it's much better, but the audio quality is somewhat thinner. And so that's the trade-off. So you get the better positioning, thinner audio. Now, I did find that, while my headphones are generic, okay, in the profiles list, I did find improvements by choosing other branded headphones. So if you have a branded headphone that's listed by Creative Labs, you may have better result than what I got. Maybe the audio will be even richer for you than what I was experiencing. It's not bad. I want to underscore this. It's not bad. It's good audio. It's just that the regular audio streams for Sound Blaster are richer. But again, you get the better positioning. So this is, that's the question if you're dealing with video games. Now, it would be really cool if there was a way to create new profiles for your own headphones. Maybe there's a calibration tool or something. But I think that would be a really nice addition to make sure that all the Sound Blaster X3 users are getting the best audio experience. Now, so let's talk a little bit about games using the Super XFI mode on the Sound Blaster X3. So in general, the audio sounds great. I really have very little to complain about. The audio positioning is usually spot on. And I found that, with games, the less busy the game is, the better the audio positioning will be. And I'll go through some examples. So Skyrim, it's there are busy times, but it's a pretty slow-paced, exploratory game. You're going around, you're talking to people. This is just an awesome game for the X3, and I'm sure there's others like it, okay? The positioning is spot on. It sounds really clean. You hear where things are coming from. Really well, it's really well worth it with the Sound Blaster X3. Doom 2016, that's another example. It's a little busier, granted, but the positioning is still very good. It's nice and seamless. Happy with Doom 2016 with the Sound Blaster X3. Star Wars Battlefront 2. Okay, this was harder. Okay, it's a really, really busy game. It works, okay, for sure, but the audio is somewhat muddled. Okay, things are blowing up all over the place, and you do hear the positioning, but it is somewhat muddled. The other thing is, I'm not 100% sure about, if it's the correct positioning for the speakers wearing the headphones. I'll give you an example. When you're listening to the narrator or you hear voices, if you're using a surround sound speaker, 90% of it is coming from the center speaker. Okay, but when you're wearing the headphones using Super XFI, it's around you, but you don't really know where it's coming from. So I don't know if that's because it's very hard to do that center channel through headphones, or if it's a mistranslation. I have no way of knowing. It could just be that the game is just too busy, for the positional audio to work as well as it could. But something about the translation wasn't quite right with that game. Now, for virtual reality, okay, so let me explain. So first off, Star Wars Squadrons. Okay, so I tested with an Acer Windows Mixed Reality headset as well as an HTC Vive, but really it doesn't matter once you're dealing with the audio because it's all coming from the X3 anyway. So Star Wars Squadrons sounded great. Okay, it just did. I mean, the audio was coming through, the positioning was good. Surprisingly, I play Squadrons with regular surround sound speakers as well, and they don't really do much behind you. Most of it is in front of you, so it was comparable, okay, between the speakers and what I was getting through the headphones, which is a good sign. But all in all, it sounded really good. Google Tilt Brush, that was another good example. It's something, when you're painting, you could paint behind your head, all kinds of stuff, and that sounded really good through the Sound Blaster X3 as well. The trade-off with the X3 versus the other sound cards by Creative Labs, the ones that plug directly in your computer, is you can do that hack where I described earlier, where you could take two channels, okay, patch them through directly to your virtual, actually I don't have it here, but directly to your virtual reality headset, okay? So that way you don't have to use extra wires for your sound card. I was really hoping that I could take that Super XFI experience And instead of having to wire directly to the box and running it in parallel to my headset, that I could just channel it directly through the, through the computer, through the HDMI cables, and so on. There was a minor bug, like there was just a flaw, but Creative Labs, they just said, we don't really support that direction, and they took it off entirely. And I was disappointed because I really thought that would have been a nice enhancement, an easy to do enhancement, but it's just it wasn't in the cards. So if you're using this for virtual reality, it's beneficial, but keep in mind you're going to have to, really to benefit from this, you're going to have a separate wire to your headphones in parallel to whatever you're doing with your virtual reality device. Now, for movies, okay, I tested Apollo 13, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, and Hacksaw Ridge. In my opinion, okay, the movies performed best with 7.1 audio output. Okay, so it would basically do the audio intended for 7 surround sound speakers plus a subwoofer. Now, the positioning I found was better with Super XFI on versus off. However, there's that challenge that when you're using Super XFI, the audio is a bit thinner than the other modes, but the positioning is better. Okay, so that's the balancing act. The other thing I found is, it's kind of cool, is that when the Super XFI audio is on, it almost sounds like the audio is inside your head versus something happening outside. I know it's a strange way to describe it, but that's the way it is. I guess that's the benefit of having a direct map of how my head is shaped. As for music, this is that one area where I strongly recommend just sticking with the standard Sound Blaster audio modes. There's really no advantage to using the Super XFI because, in my opinion, it makes the audio sound thinner. You're not getting any additional audio cues anyway. It's better to stick with the standard audio modes. The advantage of just having this in general versus the audio that comes with your motherboard, in my opinion, because the audio isn't quite as good as a traditional sound card, and I'm just thinking of the regular modes, not the Super XFI modes, I think the real benefit is having the extra flexibility to control your audio and enhance it with the crystallizers and the dialogue enhancement and the smart volume and the whole thing. So that's what makes it worthwhile, even though the audio is a little bit thinner compared to the other sound cards, okay, because they work at higher resolutions. Now, what's the value proposition of the X3? Well, if you have a desktop PC, okay, if you have surround sound speakers at your disposal, and you're not really planning to use headphones very much, then, in my opinion, it's not the way to go. I would recommend a different sound card because those speakers, especially if you have a surround sound system, a digital-based surround sound system, you're going to get a lot more value out of a different sound card. This is primarily helpful to you if, say, 50% of your experience is through headphones. If headphones are important to you, then the Sound Blaster X3 is a very strong value proposition. If you're using a games console, like a Sony PlayStation 4, keep in mind this will not work with the speakers. It will only work with headphones. Now, this is going to be the best positional audio you're going to get through headphones. So as long as you're using headphones on a regular basis with your PlayStation 4, then it's worthwhile. If most of your stuff is through speakers, then I'd say stick with your speakers. If you have a laptop computer, okay, if you have my laptop computer, you have no choice. You have to buy the Sound Blaster X3. It's frankly, I can only speak for my machine, and it's a gaming machine. It's far superior to anything my laptop can deliver. Whether I'm connecting speakers, whether I'm listening through headphones, it's just much, much better. And the fact that it's got USB connectivity, it's the only option I have to enhance the audio that comes built into my laptop machine. So right away, if you have a gaming laptop computer, for sure, I would put the Sound Blaster X3 on your must-buy list. Now, something new that comes with the Sound Blaster X3 that I hadn't seen before with other models is it has a mobile application. And it's really good for on-the-fly adjustments in the middle of your game, especially with the equalizer and choosing between different Super XFI modes. Okay. The thing is, if you're using the traditional audio modes, which are available, okay, they are supported by the Sound Blaster X3, you have to control them through the Sound Blaster command software. You can't do it through your smartphone. So this is a nice to have. It is a nice to have, but just be aware it's not as fully featured as the software that comes installed on your PC. This is better suited for if you're, let's say, using a game console and you need to interact with that Super XFI functionality, and you don't have that command software on the PlayStation like you do on the PC. That's probably the scenario that is better suited for. So how would I rate this overall? So for features, I'm going to give it a score of 4 on 5. And the only reason it lost a point is because I really wanted to see that Super XFI feature running through that What You Hear device, on the PC, going to the virtual reality headset. I also would have liked it if it was possible to get surround sound working on a full, surround sound system, based on HDMI and digital. I know that they were limited by that USB connector. It's just, it would have been a nice to have. If we had that, it would have had literally everything. But it came very, very close. In my mind, 4 on 5 is extremely high for features. It's a lot of value being packed in this box. As for ease of use, I'm giving it a 4 on 5 as well. I had very little trouble with it at all. There were some hiccups with firmware, like the firmware gets updated once in a while, and once or twice I had to switch computers to get it to install properly, but it was a minor issue. That's the only reason why I had to take some score away for ease of use. But really, other than that, it was problem free. As far as audio quality, I'm giving it a 4 on 5, another high rating. The only reason I took a point away is because if you have the flexibility to do an actual sound card plugged in directly into your computer, at least compared to the AE5, the Sound Blaster AE5, I thought that the audio was just a bit thinner compared to the other sound cards I've tested here. Okay, but again, what really makes this shine is the positional audio through Super XFI. And so that's why I gave it a score of 4 or 5 for quality. And as far as the value for it, I mean, $120 American for this, and there's a lot of this in this, a 5 on 5. So total score, I'm giving it 4.25 or 4 1/4 on 5 for the Sound Blaster X3. Again, if you have a laptop gaming machine, you have to buy this. If you have a PC or a console and you use headphones on a regular basis, I strongly recommend buying this. If you want audio that's better than what your PC is built with, I would definitely give this a try to see if it's worth your while. I know for me it has been. So we'll be back with more right after this. Thank you for visiting me in my messy basement. Again, Happy New Year. May 2021 be a great year for everyone. And by the way, I'm still very committed to completing that series about how to get the most out of your PC and out of your audio equipment. Much more to share on that front. We'll be back again soon. Thank you for watching.